Hey, what's up you guys? Today I'm doing my December wrap up. This is my fourth day uploading a video in a row. I feel like I'm doing Vlogmas or something, but I'm just really in the video making mood. So before we start, please consider subscribing and leaving a like, and let's get into the video. So the first book I read was East of Eden by Steinbeck, and this was published in 1952, and I gave this 5 stars. It's a very long book and I'm going to struggle to explain its premise, but stay with me because I'm going to try. So it follows the lives of two families, the Trasks and the Hamiltons, and initially we follow Adam Trask and find out about his relationship with his brother and how they both have a relationship with their father, which is not the best, and because of this impacts their brotherly relationship. Through flashbacks we learn all about their childhood and growing up with this kind of abusive relationship. Then as an adult, Adam meets a woman called Kathy and they have 2 sons. So we then follow the sons as they grow up and discover some different family secrets and see how this impacts their relationship as brothers, much like their father had a relationship with his brother due to their family having secrets and different power dynamics and stuff. So history kind of repeats itself, and that's a very, very basic idea of what's going on. This is like a almost 800-page novel, but yeah, it's just a very complex story following 3 generations of men in the Trask and Hamilton families. The Hamiltons aren't the main focus, but their stories are very much interconnected with the Trask family story. So I absolutely loved the character of Kathy. Okay, so I don't want to give too much away, but she's literally the embodiment of evil within this story, and some of the things she does are just so crazy, and I just love it. Because I just really love realistically evil characters, because a lot of the time in fiction, evil characters and villains, I don't know if Kathy is considered a villain, but she's definitely the antagonist of the story. A lot of the time in fiction, they're just so over the top that they're just pure fantasy, and they're scary within the world of the story. However, in the real world, you just know these people don't really exist because they're so over the top. Kathy, on the other hand, was so realistic, and the things that she does were so horrible and manipulative, but you know that like Kathy could exist and there is Kathys out in the world, and that's why I just found her character so fascinating, because it really gave you like a different look into the human psyche. So this book really gave me vibes of Wuthering Heights, which was one of my favourite books of 2019 and one of my favourite books ever. Just because of the kind of multi-generational family saga type of story and how the different families interconnect, and you know the decisions that the father makes impacts his sons, and then his choices then impact his sons, and it was just a very similar kind of vibe to Wuthering Heights but more modern and updated. So I really enjoyed it because I felt at times like I was almost rereading Wuthering Heights. Also, there's Kathy and Wuthering Heights, and in this, I just realised that. So yeah, really loved East of Eden and cannot recommend it enough. So the second book that I read was Notes from Underground by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I hope I said that right. I looked it up and I can't even remember. But this was published in 1864, originally in Russian, but obviously I was reading the English translation. So this was one of the first existentialist novels ever written, and in this book we're reading the memoirs of our narrator, who is an isolated, self-loathing man who has purposefully cast himself out of society by ruining relationships and acting kind of sociopathic. The title Notes from Underground comes from the fact that the narrator is writing his memoir kind of from underneath society. He thinks he's beneath everyone else, and he refers to himself as a mouse, that he's like going through the floorboards looking up at everyone and judging what they're doing. So this was quite a short book, but it was actually very complex, and it took me longer to read than I expected because there was a lot of ideological themes and personally stuff that kind of goes through my head a lot of the time. Especially with this, there was a lot of like metaphors and political ideologies, and I find that stuff kind of hard to comprehend when I personally obviously haven't lived through this. This was written in 1864, so you know, life in Russia in 1864 is totally different from my life now. So just because I'm not familiar with a lot of it, I kind of find it hard to grasp some of the stuff they're talking about. Obviously, I get it, but just like the deep metaphors and things like that, I personally just don't understand. I found the narrator really grating at times, but you were meant to. Like, you were meant to hate this man as much as he hates himself. But then later on, you start to sympathise with him more, and this was a credit to the author's writing, I thought, because it made you feel exactly how he wanted you to feel. When he wanted you to hate the narrator, you hated him, and then once he wanted you to be more sympathetic, you became more sympathetic. The narrator, because he's writing a memoir as well, he's obviously telling a story about himself, so it's a very unreliable narrator style of writing, and I love this personally. So some of my favourite books are Gone Girl and Lolita, and they both use the unreliable narrator writing style. I was going to say trope, it's not trope. And I just think that's a really interesting and different way of telling a story. So overall, I give this 3 stars based on enjoyment. However, if I was rating it from like a more technical standpoint, I probably would have gave it 4. But personally, just because a lot of the metaphors and stuff like that, I find it hard to follow, and I found the book kind of slow to read because of this, I had to give it 3 stars. So the third and last book that I read in December was The Awakening by Kate Chopin, and this was released in 1899. This was given to me by my friend Garana when I was studying abroad, and she said it was one of her favourite books, so I was actually really excited to read it. It's quite a shorter book as well, and I really enjoyed it. So we follow Edna Pontellier, a middle-class wife and mother who slowly starts to become disillusioned with her life and her society and her role within society. So she realises that she isn't happy being the middle-class maternal figure that she's meant to be, and she wants to start a new life of freedom and independence with another man that is not her husband. So I loved the story, and I really enjoyed watching Edna as she basically gave a middle finger to everyone around her and just decided to live free and be who she actually wanted to be, free of the gender norms of the time. So her character actually at times reminded me of Cathy Ames from East of Eden, and the fact that they both live very much outside of society's norms. Although Edna is in no way like an evil character like Cathy is, she just becomes very independent. So I would highly recommend The Awakening, and I really actually recommend that if you do read it, you look up the backstory, because I didn't realise that this was such a kind of influential feminist book. I don't know much about that kind of stuff, but I really enjoyed reading the backstory and how Kate Chopin actually faced a lot of problems because of how controversial this book was, because of its feminist aims and kind of just feminism, just in the character of Edna learning to be herself and not wanting to be a mother and a wife. Kate actually really suffered because of it, and she struggled to release another book. So if you're going to read it, I highly recommend just looking up the kind of the backstory as well, because that in itself is a whole story. So that was the 3 books that I read in December. I thought I would have finished The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte, but I'm still reading it right now. It took me so much longer to read than I thought, and also I was just, December's a busy month. But I'm really excited for the books that I have planned for January. Hopefully I'm going to finish The Tenant of Wildfell Hall today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow. And yeah, hopefully I'll have more books to talk about by the end of January. That's not just classics. I have some more kind of YA books planned for the rest of the month, because I've been really heavy in the classics for the last couple of months. So thank you so much for watching. Please let me know down below if you've read any of these books or if they sound interesting to you, and also just leave a like, and if you want to subscribe, that would obviously make my day. So thank you so much, and I will see you later. Bye.